Hey gamers, Gecko here. With EVO Japan being just around the corner, I thought now would be as good a time as ever to talk about the next Guilty Gear character that is coming out. Unika. We've been getting a couple of hints as to what Unika may play like through different means, mainly the Guilty Gear Strive anime, Guilty Gear Strive Dual Rulers, as well as official artwork from Arc System Works. We know that we're going to figure out how she plays very soon, because she is going to be playable at EVO Japan. So it is all but guaranteed that we're going to be getting a trailer probably on the first day. I'm not gonna lie, after watching most of Dual Rulers, it's not finished yet, so I obviously haven't seen all of it. I am very excited for how Unika is gonna play. This video will contain slight spoilers about Dual Rulers. Nothing major. I'm not going to be going into any of the later developments. I'm mostly just going to be talking about the moves that Unika uses to fight and her general style in the anime. The anime itself generally does a good job of making sure that the characters are true to form, which, after the Devil May Cry anime, was a fucking breath of fresh air. So while characters are doing things differently in the anime than they do in the game, there's enough of their core moveset around that you can probably figure something out about Unika just by watching the anime. So let's go over a couple of things that Unika uses in the anime and see how they may translate into actual gameplay. The first major thing that a lot of people have pointed out is that she has access to some weird little shadow creatures in the earlier episodes. The first time we see her really fight, she uses these almost eddy-like creatures in order to attack the main cast. It doesn't seem to be a massive part of her moveset because, slight spoiler alerts, it doesn't show up again later in the anime, unless it shows up in the final couple of episodes. Like, the anime is not finished yet, but they do appear at the first time that she fights something, so it is important to note. She also has two major abilities that she uses several times throughout the anime. She is able to use wings in order to fly around, and she's able to go 100% invisible. She uses these to stay elusive and get the drop on a couple of people, as well as getting into areas that she's not supposed to be in. They might be used in actual combat, so I'm noting them here, because it would be kind of interesting to see. But the main star of the show, and the thing that she uses the most, is her gun sword thing. A lot of the fights have Unika shooting her gun or swinging it like a sword at people, which, if we're going to be entirely honest, is probably the main way that she's going to play. Having a sword that is also a gun is not something that's unique to Ruby, it's also something that happens in Guilty Gear. Soul's sword is also technically a gun. Bridget's yo-yo is also technically a gun. Having a weapon also be a gun that shoots projectiles just kind of makes sense. Alpha literally smacks you with guns. The real question is, though, how is she going to use it? There's several shots of her transforming it into a real mounted gun. Like, there is, I don't know what they're called, stands that come out of the bottom of the gun. Then she's able to anchor down with it and shoot people. Not like that, she more like fucking Devil May Cry, points it forward, puts it on something and fires. And she does that quite a bit. And while I sort of, I guess, gaslit myself into thinking that was her basically only way of attacking, she does actually swing the sword quite a lot. Like, there are several fight scenes of her just basically trying to beat the shit out of someone with it. But maybe it can morph between a sword and a gun. Maybe she's a character with different movesets. We don't know. But there is one final big thing that we know about Unika that hasn't come from the anime, as in fact come from her splash art. Apart from her theme being leaked like it always is, thank you Apoga, we got her splash art to coincide with the announcement that she will be playable at EVO Japan. On this splash art, we can see her posed up next to what looks like her weapon, while it has been morphed into a motorcycle. Okay, I guess motorcycle isn't really working since there's no wheels. It's more like a hover cycle. But for all intents and purposes, it's a hovering motorbike. Also looks really fucking cool. She has a motorcycle helmet that's in the shape of her mask that she has in the anime. I think it's kind of sick, honestly. But this does throw a bit of a wrench into what her character may be. The splash art is pretty important for a lot of characters. it is literally the first thing we're seeing about her that isn't the anime. So they're gonna want to emphasize important things about her. So because of that, I'm taking the fact that her gun sword may also just be a motorcycle into account when trying to predict what she may play like. So those are the 5 major things that I could find. Little goobers, invisibility, wings, gun sword, that is also a motorbike. This is actually quite broad and unfortunately doesn't leave us with anything distinctively fighting game. It's very Guilty Gear, but it's not fighting game. But it does mean that we have several different options. And it really depends on what the developers want to lean into with how this character will end up playing. There is the obvious chance that all of these somehow share a space, so she's able to summon little guys, go invisible, fly, shoot people, smack people, and run them over for a sort of fucked up Omni Shodo that does literally everything. But I highly doubt that's going to be the play. I have 4 different options here, and then a 5th one that I'm kind of secretly hoping for, but I don't think it's going to happen at this point. The first one is pretty standard and pretty simple. A set play puppet zoner. Kinda similar to how Jacko is and how I imagine Dizzy players want it to be. This would lean more into the gun and the little guys aspect. Unika would use a long-ranged attack or literally shooting people in order to get a knockdown and then summon the little guys or the little goobers in order to run Okizeme or do even more pressure before resetting the situation. Think item-centric Faust, very boring Jacko, or current Dizzy. How crazy they want to go with this would really depend on how the little guys would work. The thought that I would have to make Unika stand out from someone like Jacko or Dizzy would be to have it so that she can program the little goobers to do something. Nappa had this ability with his Cybermen in Dragon Ball FighterZ, and while he was a niche character, the people that liked him really liked Nappa. So I think taking that basically wholesale and adding it to these little guys would be pretty cool. So having them have a ranged attack, a leaping melee, a low attack, and then some kind of finishing command grab like the Cybermen had would be really interesting in Strive. I also think it would just make her more interesting than just another set play zoner who puts thing on top of you then does Oki. But that does leave out 3 of the major things that we've had. So what if we were to try and find something a little bit more full, a little bit more using everything? Well, we could have a character that uses longer ranged attacks and then sets up the goober, but also uses her wings and invisibility to really enhance her mix-ups. Maybe she's less on the shooting people and having the zoning that way, and more on mixing them up really close and doing a devastating combo. I would really like it if Unika was just Dragon Knight. Hear me out. She summons one of the little guys, and it stays there for an extended period of time. And she's able to give it commands like a fireball that fires 3 times, a big fireball, and like an invincible move. And then she's able to use her wings to like hover really quickly to get a high-low 50-50 like immediately off of any knockdown. And then she uses the fact that she has like a gun sword. Instead of it being like a gun, she's able to fire the projectile as she swings stuff. So she just has massive attacks, and she's able to do one where she like puts you on the end of the gun and fires you up, and it gives her a fucking hard knockdown. I really miss Dragon Knight. If Unika was just a way to put Dragon Knight in the game, and they gave her the invisibility and the wings because they were like, fuck it, why not? Let's make Dragon Knight broken. I would be super happy. I would be super, super happy. I think this might be the least likely one, personally, but I also just really want it to be true, because I miss my wife. But this still leaves something unaccounted for, and there is a chance that everything we've seen in the anime is just a complete lie, a misdirect. So focusing entirely on the portrait, I have written down as her archetype, Motorbike. This would have her really go into the using a massive weapon that gives her a large amount of mobility kind of archetype. Think Slayer, but somehow even more linear, because Mappa Hunch now has a fucking motorbike animation. I think this would essentially be her swinging it around, kind of like how Dante swings the motorbike in Devil May Cry 5. I'm thinking mostly like Dante DMC 5, where he literally swings the bike around and splits it in half and uses those as 2 big attacks. Having moves where she literally revs that shit and goes across the screen and multi-hits you and she fucking rams her goddamn wheels into your face. Maybe burning you with the back of her fucking jet engine. A very linearly focused, I am going to run you over rushdown character. While we're on that train of thought, let's go to the complete opposite end. Maybe she's just an absolute fucking gorilla. Maybe she herself is fast, but the motorbike hits like a fucking truck. She literally swings that shit and it gives her a bunch of plus frames. If it hits you, it bounces you off the fucking wall and it fucking kills you. She's able to do that. She can go invisible. She can use it like a sword. She just decides that she's gonna run at you and kill you. There is a lot of her just sort of going in on a lot of the fights. Basically, every time she fights Sin, there's a pose where Sin has his pole up, and then she's smacking against it, and they're screaming at each other. So I could see her being Unga Bunga, I run at you and hit you with big sword, that I can turn into bigger sword and hit you with. I actually like that idea quite a bit. Like a stance change? So like she has it as her sword, but instead of it going into a gun, it goes into a motorbike, and the motorbike she like hits you with. I think that'd be sick. I like this idea now. I'm sold on the Unga Bunga, because I kind of wrote it down just to like have everything be cyclical, but I'm kind of liking it. I'm gonna be very upset now if it turns out she's one of the set plays owners, because that's gonna be, I'm just gonna have ruined it for myself. I also think her being rushed down makes a bit more sense. We've had 2 set plays owners this season. Like we need something different. And I'm praying we're getting Unga Bunga. If we get Unga Bunga, I'm gonna run so many people over with the motorbike. So those are all the ones that I think could actually happen. Set play Zona, it's just Dragon Knight. She's entirely focused on the motorbike, or she is Unga Bunga Gorilla, run at you, plus frames, hit you with big stick. But there is one different archetype that we don't really have in Guilty Gear anymore, and I think Unika might be able to fill that spot, and I kind of hope she does. If you don't know, in the older Guilty Gear games, Soul Bad Guy was kind of a combo grappler along with being a Shoto. His wild throw would start a combo, which in Xrd you would use for mid-screen just a standard air combo. In the corner, you'd use it for like a dust loop, and in plus R, it's basically Sidewinder combos, let's be real. But in Strive, Wild Throw is just a true command grab. You don't get a combo off of it unless you RC. It just does damage. So we've basically lost Combo Grappler as a archetype in Guilty Gear at this point. There is no one that has a command grab that you can combo from. Right now, the closest we have is Baiken, because if she has the Tevra on you, she's able to do her long throw. Like, if you hold down the throw button, she stabs you and throws you, and that gives her a combo while you're still tethered. That's the closest we have. I think having a character that leans into command grabs with combos and chain throws, though, could be interesting, and Unika's kind of a blank slate. I really hope this is something they do, because while I don't like grapplers, I do like combo grapplers. The moment I start pressing buttons after the command grab, I think they're sick. The moment I press the command grab and it's over, I think it's boring. So I'd be really interested if they'd go down that route. I don't know how they would do it. This character really doesn't seem like they're going to be that, but a man can dream. And that's all the thoughts I have on Unika so far. It is going to be very soon that we get gameplay, so please like and subscribe to make sure that you see the gameplay reaction videos the moment they come out. We're literally going to be seeing footage of her on Friday, because even if we don't get the trailer, I'm sure people at Evo Japan are going to be recording their screens showing us what's going on. And even then, we're probably going to get the starter guide and everything. Like, when they showed Johnny at Versus fighting, we got the trailer the morning of, and then we also got the starter guide when we got there at the venue. So likelihood is we're gonna be getting a lot of news on Friday. So make sure you subscribe to see that. Thank you all for watching. See you all later. Bye-bye.